Strategies for Real Estate, a 30-minute program updating you on today's real estate market and discussing current issues and opportunities in the desirable Silicon Valley. Plus, interviews with real estate experts giving you insight on what's to come. With your host, Dan Lawson. And now, Strategies for Real Estate.
Hello and welcome to our weekly Spotlight segment. I'm so happy to have Amie Gray from N3 Innovation. You're a CEO of your company and you have over 20 years experience in the technology field. And to have you here today to talk about where some innovation is coming and where people can look and find innovation and opportunity, to me is just, I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
I am too, Dan. I think that our topic today is Internet of Things, and it's just such an exciting time, and there's so much opportunity. I think that businesses could really take advantage of it.
Right, exactly. So I think we should just get into that. When you mentioned the Internet of Things, I had to read through and locate some of that phraseology. I wasn't familiar with it. So for those who have not heard that term or taken the effort to learn about it, please.
Okay, well, so Internet of Things is literally things connected to the internet. It's sometimes abbreviated IoT, and the technology companies are really pushing the Internet of Things now, and it's actually been historically existed for a while in other forms. But Internet of Things is really starting to come on. Some famous or well-known opportunities or products that are in the market are, for example, the Nest product that Google bought recently, probably about a year ago, for several millions, if not billions, I don't remember the exact number, lots of money. So the Nest product is an Internet of Things. It's a thermostat connected to the internet. Who would have thought?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And other factors, I mean, that really covers the control of the home. And it seems like technology is evolving to controlling lighting, maybe a garage door opening and closing, and just various things, yes?
Exactly, yes. And not only controlling them, but also monitoring and alerting. And also, could Internet of Things make decisions for us or take action for us, which would make our lives easier, which would be very nice. So if you think about a home, and if I could control my garage door, for example, if I left the garage door open when I drove away, or let's say it didn't quite close and it popped open again, and I'm already driving down the street, I could get an alert on my phone, hey, you didn't close the garage door. But one step past that is that if the garage door is talking to the rest of the sensors in the house, they know there's no cars in the garage and they know there's no one at home, why wouldn't it just close the garage door all by itself?
Get a command to close it.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
So some intelligence.
Yes, which is awesome. So, and this is why the Internet of Things is getting so much attention, correct?
That's right. And the Internet of Things really is creating a new economic model. So we're starting to see something called the Internet of Things economy. And it's a lot like the beginning of the internet. We didn't really know what the internet was going to be good for. We kind of played around, but eventually, nowadays the internet has lowered cost. It makes shopping very easy. You get a lot of information off of the internet. Everything became a little bit more accessible for people, and prices came down. You had more choice as a consumer. You could price compare, things like that, so that for a consumer, it was a very good win. On the business side, even though prices are coming down, it's a lot less expensive for them to operate because they have the internet in place.
And we see that with Amazon Books. It has really put a huge hurt on Barnes & Noble and things of this nature because they don't have to offset so many locations for people to come, which is somewhat of a sad evolution because it was nice to go into the bookstore and sit down and have a look and things.
Yes, and our kids may not know what that really was like, or even going to the library and looking at an encyclopedia, that's kind of gone. Right. So, but so the way that the internet has changed things, the Internet of Things will also change things to that magnitude. And it's just now beginning to start. And so companies that make things, quote unquote, should really be the ones starting to look at what they can do inside the new Internet of Things economy.
Okay. Well, so I want to talk to you about that. I would guess that, like the new watch, that the iWatch, if that's what they're calling it, this would be an example of Internet things.
That's right. So the iWatch is an example of the Internet of Things, and it's in a special category called wearables. And wearables are anything that you would wear on your body, a piece of clothing or an addition like jewelry, or even the headset that you have for we used to have for your iPhone, even though
Right.
now it's mostly in your car, but that's still
True.
considered a wearable, some earpieces. And so those wearables are going to change the way people live. And the way that it's going to do that, just think about for us, you could monitor your health. So if you're in poor health, you could have a monitor on and the doctor could see something and they could be alerted if there was a problem. Or someone like who's needs more monitoring. Think of babies, for example. So there's wearables for babies. So if a baby stops breathing at night, which would be a bad thing, alert could be.
You'd be alerted somehow, some
could
way.
could be triggered.
Or as well, if a mom and dad were out on a date night and something were to occur to the baby or not, they might enjoy their evening a bit more knowing,
Exactly,
oh, the baby's, the heart rate's lower, it's sleeping,
And
obviously.
what does a parent want but to be more relaxed and be able to sleep and be able to go out and do all the things that they would like to do and still have peace of mind that everything is okay at home.
Yes, exactly. Or even for diabetics that have testing, depending on
Yes.
how the
Yes.
evolution of different technologies would go, which if I could sidebar with you for a moment,
Sure.
is those watching this program, if I were in that particular field, my wheels would begin to spin a bit about, well, how do I optimize or change my business model to take full advantage? So on one hand, I might be a manufacturer, but what are some other industries that should be taking strong notice to the things we're speaking of now?
Right. So every industry is going to be affected or could be affected
Or enhanced.
or enhanced or whatever. It will be changed by the Internet of Things, that's for sure. And the reason that is because the cost of implementing the Internet of Things is driving to be very low. So the cost of the components, the technology is very low, while the value of the information that you can get from the Internet of Things and the business value you can derive from it is very high. So that changes the equation for businesses and it changes the equation for consumers. So just let's think about logistics, for example. So if we're transporting items from one place to the other and I'm a truck driver, could I get a notification that there's ice on the road ahead of me and I might slow down or I might be more careful or something like that. Maybe I might think about items are supposed to go from point A to point B, but yet for some reason it gets a little diverged. You could create something called a geofence, which would be around the area that it's supposed to be, and if it's diverged it would trigger an alert and you would say, oh, well maybe I'm interrupting a theft or I'm interrupting some problem with the transport. And that would be very valuable if what you're transporting is jewelry, electronics, pharmaceuticals, things that have very high value and that are valuable on the black market.
Right, exactly. With manufacturing has been going offshore, and it would seem to me that by utilizing some of these tools and opportunities, we may see a resurgence of U.S. manufacturing.
U.S. manufacturing definitely is thinking about coming back to the U.S. So manufacturing in general is coming back to the U.S. And the reason is because—
That's wonderful news.
Yeah, because they can increase the level of automation and the level of productivity. So why can they do that?
And a standard of quality,
Standard
most
of quality,
likely too.
Possibly, yeah. A lot of automation already levels the quality playing field, but potentially. And so, but the other reason to come back to the U.S. is because the transportation costs are a lot lower into the U.S. market if you make the product here in the U.S. But the reason that they can make it is because Internet of Things enables more productivity inside of the production line and some cost savings. So Intel, for example, saved $9 million in one factory by implementing the Internet of Things just to control things like lighting, power, electricity, and air conditioning.
Interesting.
So it's a pretty small impact to the infrastructure, but a major cost savings.
So utilize maybe machine-to-machine information technology and so forth.
So machine-to-machine is the very early version of the Internet of Things, and the only difference here really is that the machine-to-machine relied on a network that was a wired network.
Oh.
Internet of Things doesn't depend on a wired network. So in that case, you can monitor things that aren't even near a network connection. We all have Wi-Fi and wireless. It's the same concept. So you can connect something that's very remote. You could connect remote stations or remote centers that aren't part of your manufacturing facility. Maybe there's a storage warehouse, or there's a monitoring station far away that you would be able to monitor with the Internet of Things or with sensors and cellular connectivity.
Right, right. Yeah, the technology for that communication piece, we didn't have it in the past.
That's right.
6 years ago when I remodeled a home I own, they were wiring all my speakers and everything, and I said, you know,
That
one
was a
day
waste of time,
they're
wasn't it?
not going to have any of this connectivity, and I can't believe I'm spending so much money to
That's
have music
right.
in my home.
That's right.
But, so maybe you can talk about how companies might get started in the Internet of Things.
Yeah, so of course, just basics. You could connect up your product to the internet by putting an internet, putting the pieces together inside of your thing, which sounds really easy, but really it's a little bit more complicated than that, because by doing so you enable a new business model. As I was saying before, it's an economy, so there's more value to be gotten out of the product, and so it's up to the business to determine what the business case is and how to actually get the value out. So as simple as it might sound, it's really not about the connectivity and about the thing. It's really about how you create the right use case and how you translate, and maybe there's multiple use cases, could be hundreds in some cases, and how you create value out of those use cases and how those use cases can translate into business. Beyond that, it's not just about creating some new product sale. So GE, for example, is putting connectivity into their jet engines. So you can imagine in a plane, that means that there's fewer maintenance stops. They know when the jet engine is wearing down, so they can prevent failures. They have more fly time.
They're able to monitor servicing and so forth, even monitor how long it's in servicing.
Yeah, that's right. And then they're able to convert their revenues to a subscription model. So they don't get as much up front, but over time they're making as much money just because they're now a subscription model based on flying hours.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Amie, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and thoughts. And I will say to you, if you're wondering, well, how would I go about this? This is exactly what Amie does. This is her specialty, and she does the analytics for people and companies to help them understand how to optimize your positioning in something like the Internet of Things. So with that, thank you again very much for being with us.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.